Hey everyone, in this episode of Brick and Mortar Money, we're here talking with Trisha from KD Beauty Supply.
Hey there.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Sure. So I'm Trisha Moses with KD Beauty Supply. I have had this storefront here in Middletown, Delaware, right off of Main Street near the post office, in between the post office and Dunkin' Donuts. We've been here for a little bit over 3 years now. We initially opened doors right before the pandemic, and it was a wild experience because November of 2019 is when we opened. And then by February, you start hearing rumblings of, illnesses and different things going on. So it was a scary time for us, but we pushed through. And we just celebrated our 3-year anniversary in November. A little bit about my background. I come from nonprofit leadership of 20 years. So recently kind of stepped off of that role into being a full-time entrepreneur, and I love it so much. This is a family-owned, veteran-owned, woman-owned business.
And when did you know self-employment was for you, and why did you choose the beauty industry?
Well, I think that self-employment and business has always been a part of my life from my parents and family growing up. The first business that I was introduced to, my mother and father owned an antique store in the South, and from the family stories that were shared were of other people, my grandparents owning stores in Brooklyn where my mother was raised, and mechanic shops, and owning different real estate from North Carolina to DC to New York. And so there has always been this push in this entrepreneurial spirit, right, that has always been a part of our business or our family. And I think the drive to not just work to thrive, but also to find ways to allow us to kind of thrive in our own ownership.
That's right.
Was important as I was growing up.
That's right. And I say it all the time. I say, with business or being an entrepreneur, you're really born into it.
Definitely.
You're born into it. People, you can't learn it. You can learn certain aspects of business, whether it be certain terminologies, paperwork, but it's a drive, it's a determination, it's a will to want to win, and that's kind of born into you.
Innate.
And it's yes, and it's sharpened by life's experiences.
True.
It's sharpened, and so, why the beauty industry?
So the beauty industry, because I felt like it was just natural. I come from a family where we're, we take pride in our the way we look and our health. Inner beauty is as even more important than outer beauty, and we see beauty as just accentuating in things that we use to enhance our beauty as accentuating our inner beauty.
That's
right?
That's right.
And then also in terms of beauty equity, whereas when you think about the industry itself, our industry is one where our community spends a lot of dollars in this billion-dollar industry, and we just thought it was important to not just to invest our dollars in ways where we're spending and but we're becoming a part. We're in integrating ourselves in the money-making portion of this industry as well. We're tapping into resources that we've always kind of paid into.
That's right.
Right. And
That's
so we
right.
thought it was important. And then I felt like it was just kind of a natural fit for us as a family, because our family is on, healthcare, skin care, hair care is just very important to us.
That's right.
Yeah. So we thought it would be a natural fit.
Yeah, that sounds good. And I always try to say that you doing this kind of sets the stage for the next person coming behind. And
It really does.
yeah, what happens is when you do this on a retail level, you scale up, and then you
Yes.
become distribution.
Yes.
The other person can take the retail space, right? Then when you get into distribution, you say, I want to scale up even more, and you get
That's
into
the goal.
manufacturing, right? And so now we don't have to rely on other people that control this industry. We can do it for ourselves and keep it more in-house. And what we do is we create jobs for everyone who may not have jobs, who may not understand that they need to support each other for us to be able to give jobs, because no one else is going to want to give us jobs. It's a thing to where most people don't recognize just the little things. If I support you and I buy a comb, if I support you and I buy a hat, whatever I do to support you monetarily, it puts you in a position to be able to help the masses.
To give back.
To give back.
To give back.
To give
Access
back.
is important. So something you just said about, the industry in terms of accessibility to certain vendors.
That's
and
right.
being able to kind of access the needed resources to be able to be successful.
That's right.
A lot of times we, as Black-owned business owners, don't have easy accessibility. And so if I can be the one and others, open doors for others that are thinking about entering into the industry or any form of business, that's what we should do. That is where, this is how that cycle begins in terms of wealth building, wealth education, all of those things that are required in order to grow, continue to grow the community, continue with, ongoing investments in entrepreneurship and, business education.
That's right.
I think that a lot of times, we get discouraged because so many doors get closed on us, right? Let's just keep it real.
Yeah,
And when those doors close and you cannot connect with anyone within a certain radius that is going to either keep you encouraged,
That's right.
connect you with someone else that may have information or resources that you may not know about. Sometimes you feel like you're going at it alone,
Yes.
but there are so many business owners now that have gone through it.
Yes.
Bath by fire.
That's right.
We've gone through it. We've weathered the storm. There are tidbits and nuggets of information, even with us talking and sharing and stuff.
That's right.
So much information out there now that we can share. So those that are aspiring to do more, that have the idea or the vision and just really need to put it together, there are those of us that can help, and we should, support each other.
And we definitely should. So also, how hard or easy was it for you to transition out of the corporate space into the independent business space?
I always felt like, so hard or difficult, there are degrees of both, so in terms of having the wherewithal and the know-how and the drive to be able to do it, it wasn't hard at all. I felt like, there was this higher calling at all times. And then, sharing my experience early on, that's something that I knew at some point I wanted to do. In terms of, being able to mentally, because we become conditioned when you're working in a corporate space, you become conditioned to the 9 to 5.
That's right.
It's called the rat race. You get up in the morning, you have your breakfast, nothing before coffee, and then you go and you put your hours in, and that's what you do. And sometimes you don't sign off at 5 o'clock. A lot of times, I would give, 9 to probably 12 a.m. but you do what you needed to do, and that's the conditioning.
That's right.
And so I think that was the hardest part, to mentally think about it differently. That I'm continuing to do that. The investment of time and energy requires the same.
That's right.
But you're working towards, building almost like a family empire, the family business, the family, and then also including the family.
That's right.
Was a little bit different. So your board members were were not people that you didn't see every day. It became, the people that you you're eating dinner with,
That's right.
and so I feel like I've done a good job at it, and 3 years is not a long time, and actually the last couple of months of transitioning is not really a long time in terms of signing off, but I feel like, I'm in a good place with it. I feel like I'm where I need to be in terms of thinking about it strategically and continuing to build, wanting to continue to build.
Yeah, I think you are. I mean, I've looked at a lot of things that you've done, and it's not the amount of years or the time, right? It's the quality that you put in, and you put a lot of quality in, and you actually understand things in a different way. And I tell people it's really the understanding that puts you in that position more so than anything else. It's not about the money. It's not about anything. It's about how you can transition and do the things that you need to do. I like the way you put it with the board, right?
Yeah.
So now the family is the board. They're the most important members of the business.
Stakeholders.
They yes, because they do get something out of it at the end. Right?
That's absolutely true.
What were some of the steps you took to prepare yourself for that move from corporate to self-employment?
Well, you know what, and this is vital.
Right.
And I talk to others that come in, and they're looking around, and they're like, wow, how did you do this? Research is important. Being of faith, it's okay to step out on faith. It's also okay to be educated about, different moves and navigating certain spaces. And so making sure that I understood, how to kind of create a roadmap of things, a business plan. A lot of people are intimidated and kind of shy away from putting things to paper, but it's necessary. It's necessary to because that serves as a guide to put things on paper and kind of map things out. Where do you want to go? Set goals for yourself, short term and long term, and to also have plan Bs. So I would read up on as much information I needed to study the business industry. And when I tell you that it's so vast, right. From the manufacturers and where hair products are developed, and the different hair tools, and just different facets of what goes in, what the beauty industry entails. Right. I needed to learn about it to be able. How are you going to sell something if you don't know what you're talking about?
That's right.
People will see straight through you. Yeah. So to give testament, right. you have to really know and understand what you're talking about. So and after years of just using products myself, right. I also wanted to be able to share information about some of the best practice related to the use of products and what works well for us as a community that may be different for other communities, and understand and be able to speak to those things. The other thing, so research was very important, and then putting together a plan in terms of stepping out, making sure that when you are, and I always tell people, it's very important to have a presence. You have to have a presence, being committed. You can't ride the fence when you're trying to establish, anything, and especially business. You have to be all in and willing, and knowing how to basically be self-motivated, because there are times I think I prepared myself for the ups and downs. because understanding business, knowing that it's not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to have a 150% at cash flow. You need to need to prepare yourself for those ebbs and flows, right?
That's right.
And a lot of times, because I think that I've seen where people have not always been successful, and when you when you look at what happened, it was because they kind of shut down.
Right.
So being able to self-motivate and prepare in that way as well. So it took like the administrative preparation. It also took the the business map, the business plan and strategy. And then it also took networking, to being able to connect with others in terms of the community. Hi there, how are you?
Okay.
All right. And so hopefully I'm answering all the questions in terms of just like the preparation, just making sure that I had created also the buy-in from the family, because to have a family-owned business is different from working and going out as a supervisor for a corporate entity, and you have connected with your top talent, and you've already set goals for them and performance expectations. So you're working with your family, you're working with your babies, your other family members, and you wanted to make sure that all voices are, just like the corporate space, all voices are being incorporated, but also that there's buy-in, because you handle things a bit differently. So you want to make sure that those things are being considered.
Yeah, and I think that's 100%. I think the main takeaway is you have to educate yourself. Business is I try to tell, so there's two sides to it. Business is not really a play. It's not for play. It's really, you have to educate yourself. And a lot of people go in with so much talent.
The passion. The passion is there. That's the easy.
That's the easy. Yes, but you don't know the business, and the business takes a lot of time and effort to learn, right? And that's the part that you may not want to deal with. And if you don't deal with that, then you're going to lose that passion, because you're going to be dealing with stuff you don't understand, and it's going to hurt you, and you're going to lose a lot of money.
It's very discouraging.
It's very, and the money aspect of it too. You have to understand the business, because when you work so hard to bring in small amounts of capital, you can shovel it out so quickly when you don't understand the business. And that's what people do. It's like I tell people, if you don't understand something, why are you so quick to throw away your money on it?
That's right.
Because that's what you're doing when you don't understand it.
You want to generate a bang for a buck,
right?
The best bang for the buck is
right.
going to be important. Every penny counts when it comes to business.
That's right.
And if you are not using your capital in a way that allows you to build more capital, generate more revenue, then you're working against the business.
You're working against,
and you can't make decisions that will work against the business. The other thing that you have to do is, with that buy-in, you're going to encourage, and you have to almost create, like, it can't just be you. Everybody has to understand what that vision is, and understand the how important to look at things in that manner. Otherwise, you have to almost work in sync. Otherwise, there's a disruption. And so that is the other part of business that is critical. Like, the energy has to be there in terms of getting to the next phase. And there always has to be a next phase. You don't ever want to be stagnant in business.
No. You keep moving like a shark. So what were some of the things in the corporate sector that you've learned that helped aid you in your transition to building your business?
Negotiation. Negotiation. There are some basic fundamentals in terms of working with others. Teamwork. Of course, the administrative piece, strong follow-up, communication, being organized, being a planner. you know, fail to plan, plan to fail. I mean, I can't stress that enough when it comes to business. With business, you have to be thinking strategic planning. You have to be thinking, 3 to 5 years down the line, even further, if at all possible, to make sure that you're either on track, and if you venture off, then you can explain why. Finances. Finances are critical. You have to be able to understand budgeting. You have to be able to understand and to, do an analysis, to be able to understand variances. Like, where am I off? Right. What's not working here.
That's right.
That I need to then make a change for.
Right.
So those things I think were critical, and those are things that in terms of that are cross applicable. It's not just business. It's not just, other leadership positions. It's applicable to even your everyday life. Those are things that I think help us thrive.
So also, in a prior conversation, we spoke about online exhaustion.
Oh, yeah.
Can you elaborate on that, and why brick and mortar and not just online only?
I just feel like, coming through the pandemic, like I said, we opened during the pandemic. It was a period of dormancy, where people did not have that interaction. I think that people were tired of talking through a video screen. Virtual is great. I think we learned a lot from it, but I think that as society, we thrive off of personal connection. I think the hardest thing was to see people ill and not be able to personally touch their family and different things like that. And so we need that now. We need to do it in a safe manner, and I think we've learned about ways that we can do that, right? But we certainly still need that personal connection, that personal touch. We need to be able to talk to someone directly, even if it's through a mask, about what our needs are for our hair, for our skin, to look in someone's eyes, to know that they really care about, how I'm doing with this, and what I think would be the best product for me, and maybe they can offer me more information. I think that it's just the time in which we were like locked down in our homes and stuff like that. I think we just feel we're exhausted with that, and we need more.
Right. And we need that sense of community back, right?
That sense of community is huge right now.
And so all too often, when I speak to aspiring entrepreneurs who are currently in the corporate or job space, their number one fear is usually the lack of a safety net. Can you speak to that?
Oh, yeah. I think our safety net, and one of the things I've shared with others, and I'll say to anybody, we are our safety net, right? Our motivation, our drive, all the things that made us even think about doing what we do in the entrepreneur space is going to be your safety net in those wee hours of the night when you feel like it's not working. You are going to generate enough mental drive and need to be able to produce that you then kind of you motivate yourself. You're going to keep pushing. You just keep pushing. And so when all else fails, when you and others can't see it, you will be able to see, and you will then be the person that will you'll dig deep, dig in, and identify certain resources that then will help you be able to produce and go and grow where you need to.
Sounds good. So you also spoke of the importance of setting goals and not letting a momentary situation deter you from your end result or goal. Why is this important or significant for entrepreneurs as well as the everyday worker? And can you recall maybe an example? So not being discouraged, because like I said, you're the highs and the lows, you're always
it's going to be like the best of times, the worst of times. There are going to be times when things are selling. There's a constant cash flow. The interacting with customers just really puts you on a high. And then there are going to be times when it's so slow. You haven't seen anyone other than yourself unless you look in the mirror for hours upon hours, and that's okay. Those are the times to, think about like strategizing and to think about, making sure that you stay motivated during those downturns, to use those times for reflection and continue to think about things that you can do. Because I feel like I see all activity or engagement as an opportunity. Like for me, there is an opportunity and there are pluses in even silence and slowed movement. So for me, if I'm in here, I am focused on some of the, like, building my social media site. I mean, every moment for me is going to be an opportunity for me to be able to think about building, adding something new, continuing to innovate. And I think that entrepreneurs have to look at things that way. I think that, billionaires, the one thing that they talked about in terms of tidbits and sharing information is to get up early, that they don't sleep much, and their brains are always turning. And so we should be the same way. If you really want to do business, you really want to thrive, utilize every minute of the day, every second of the day should be thinking towards, building something or contributing to the business.
That's right. So as a woman, how challenging is it for you to balance your business and family life?
Oh, gosh. I think that it's less challenging now than it was when I was in the working sector. Well, you're still working. But I think that I do a better job with managing my time as a business owner than I did with the 9 to 5. I signed on and then I, technically didn't sign off, right? Now I'm very measured. Right. And it could be just because of where I am space-wise in life. Right. But I prioritize family in a way. And I think I have more of an opportunity being a family-owned business to be able to engage with my family in ways that I wouldn't have if I was in another workspace, right? And so balancing has just been different these days, and I'm loving it. Right. I love being able to, pick the kids up from school, the flexibility, and I can't always do that, but I can do more of it. I love being able to attend, all the games, plan out my schedule. I can attend all the games. I'm not always able to do it, but I can do more of it than when I was in the workspace. So it's been different in that way. And I think that, we're working it out. Yeah.
And your time is now your time. That's the best part. And you can incorporate family within your time now into the job space and not just push them away and say, I won't be able to be there.
Yes. Better coordinated.
But you have the control over it.
Yes.
So even if because sometimes, and I like the way you said it, so now it's easier for you to be able to deal with family and business, right? Yes. But before, it wasn't. Even though your life was more structured then, it wasn't, because someone else was dictating your time and your pattern.
Well, you couldn't always sign off.
You couldn't always
sign off. Right. So you're in a space now where you kind of set the agenda, the priorities.
That's right.
And in the workspace, kind of, the priorities are set for you. So it's different.
So how does what you do in your business help the community?
One of the things we have, I'm going to talk about two things. So the everyday interaction in terms of customer service. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is making sure that we stay connected and understand the needs of our customers and our community. We also make sure that it doesn't matter the person that walked through those doors, they feel special when they walk in, because that's how much we care. That's how we interact with one another as a team. The employees that I have here and other family members, we generally care about each other, and I think that that's important. And it starts with me with establishing that, as an expectation for myself and the others that share my space, right? The other thing too is we have an arm of our business, Katie Cares, that supports via resources to certain funds in the community. The university, Delaware University's scholarship ball is one that we were just moved by, and has supported and will continue to support. There are other local, the MOT charter school activities that we support. There are other businesses, other small businesses that we try to support in both monetarily ways and just giving back. The other thing that we do, and I contribute personally, and my daughter as well, is other up and coming entrepreneurs that want to get into the industry, the beauty supply industry, or business in general. Just making sure that we stay connected with those individuals, and where we can offer assistance and support on helping them to kind of build out their ideas, just learning more about licensure, or just creating a plan for their business. We try to help with that as well. And then the last thing that we do is try to stay connected with other Black-owned business store owners. We reach out on a regular basis just to check in, and we make sure that we're a part of, because it's only a few of us in Delaware, so to make sure that we network.
And I would also give to argue that you doing this gives other people the tools to be able to see that they can do it. Mm-hmm. And if they decide they want to do it, they have access to you and to be able to build and to be able to grow. Mm-hmm. So when one of the things that I always try to get at is we have to get out of our kitchens and out of our trunks of our cars, and we have our garages, and we have to be able to show people that this is what we're doing, so other people can say that I want to do that too, and that I can do it, and they have an opportunity to be able to talk to you, to be able to work that out. So that's kind of good.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Being a Black woman-owned beauty supply store, what has been the best way to market or advertise your business, seeing as though there are very few Black business owners in this space?
I think social media in that regard has been a friend. Right. I think, again, going back to like the personal touch and being accessible, right, and having a presence in the store when people come in. It's not just the employees that they will access. The young lady just left said, "Hey, tell your daughter I said hi," but also me, to have a presence. But social media, I think, is a platform that has really, I'm not going to say it has been surprising. It has done its job in connecting people who otherwise wouldn't have access to you, right? Sharing the stories, telling the stories, seeing the videos, putting pictures out there about our products and where we are, and being able to measure the success of that, getting in real time how many clicks that you and likes that you've received, and which helping and actually educating us on what people respond to and what they don't. And so I think that has been helpful in terms of making connections that we wouldn't otherwise have made.
So, has finding a distributor or distributors been difficult?
Oh, it has been a process. The one thing about this industry is that, vendor accounts are very coveted. And so much so that a lot of times, people don't always like to share information. It's hard to, break into that cycle of, vendor accounts and vendor access that, may come easy to others. And so once you're able to, I think that having that workspace, negotiation skills, communication skills have really benefited me in our business, and being able to do that. I would love to be able to share that with others, other networks like the Black Owned Beauty Supply Association that's on Facebook has been very beneficial. A wealth of information, a wealth of other business owners that have poured in and imparted, tidbits of information that has helped us to, and helped me to be able to break through so many doors. But it's been challenging. It's been challenging. I think we're in a good space, but I feel like we still have a ways to go with that.
So I was going to ask you about the pandemic and how it's affected your business, but I think we talked about that earlier, and how
well, specifically with the pandemic, we had to rebrand.
Yeah.
So our strategic plan was to do the beauty supply for at least a year, 18 months, and then offer additional services. Well, when the pandemic hit, we weren't able to follow that plan. That's why I said having a plan is important, so when you need to veer off and be able to explain it and have it make sense for you. So going through the pandemic, people weren't able to come into retails, because we were under the state of emergency. So we, in order to be able to continue to open our doors, we had to provide personal care items. So we venture into that space, that was the plan, and that was it, and it worked.
And it did.
And then also what we found was people started, and that was during George Floyd, where people were focused on Black-owned businesses and supporting, Black communities. We also people were in the process of making sure that they were knew how to care for their own hair, because they couldn't go into salons.
Right.
And so making sure that they had the best products and understood what the ingredients in those particular products in order to care for their hair, and what were some of those protective styles that they could utilize in order to carry them over, so that their hair wasn't breaking and falling out during that time. So that was important. So there were a lot of shifts.
I like that.
There were a lot of pivots. But we got through it. It was a very challenging times in terms of being a new business.
And would you say, what was your biggest hurdle thus far to doing business and having your own business? Your biggest hurdle?
The biggest hurdle,
or struggle?
I would say, it would have to be the vendor access. That the industry itself has been a different. Like, I talk to other business owners that are in different industries.
Right.
Other business owners that say do clothing and stuff like that. The access is different than it is for. I feel like beauty supply.
Right.
Owners, the access to be able to break into business, because one of the things that I didn't realize is there was for certain vendors, you almost have to use up your capital in order to be able to make purchases with them.
Yes.
And
Because,
for a struggling or a starter business, a lot of times that's limited. And so, and you want to be able to offer a variety of different products, to be able to offer the customers, and so that restricts you.
And so let me key in on that, because a lot of people may not understand. So when you deal with a distribution company, a lot of times that distribution company will offer you a line of credit to deal with them in-house. And so they'll offer you products because they want to be able to keep this line going with you, and your business grows, they make money with you. But what you're saying is, in this situation, they're limited in offering you those lines, or not even at all, and they want you to spend your money to buy all the product. And that's the bigger problem. I think a lot of times when you say that, people don't understand that aspect, because distributors want you to buy their product, and they know that you're not going to spend all of your capital to buy their product, so they'll give you that line with them in-house. But in this situation, it's kind of the opposite.
Typically, exactly. Typically, and so to kind of break that down a little bit further, so typically you have a vendor, and you have $5,000 that you want to spend.
That's right.
And you would establish an account with them. And what they would do is set up that credit for $5,000 in product worth.
That's right.
Right? But you have an established account of credit, and you would pay that down. You get the product, and you'll pay that down over a period of time. What ends up happening in this industry that is different is that $5,000 is demanded up front. Or maybe $10,000, and I've seen as high as $30,000 demanded up front from one vendor. When typically in a supply store, you will have, say, 30 or more different. Maybe you'll have your your top, say, 6 or 7 vendors that you purchase from, and then you have maybe 25 to 30 more smaller vendors that you would purchase from. Well, when you're demanded to have make a purchase of, say, $10,000 with just one, or $30,000 with just one, that uses up your capital. And I've seen that in this industry in a way that I've not seen in other industries.
It limits your options.
Yeah, and it really does.
And I always try to say it's for me, I think, and this is why we talk about this, is because I think it's done by design. There's a certain group that control this industry, and so what happens is I think that the design for other people to grow in this group, or other businesses to grow in this group, is not there. Right? And I think the options are limited, and it's harder because, so I want other people and customers and other people getting into this space, I want them to recognize and understand sometimes what you may have to go through as a business owner. And so when they come in, and sometimes your prices are going to be matched, and in a lot of situations they may be cheaper than the next person's. But the difference is, when you come in, you just have to ask. If you don't see, you have to ask. But a lot of times people don't recognize what you have to face versus the next person that opens in this space. You may have to put out 100% of your dollars, where that next person may only have to put out 5%, maybe 3%, maybe 7% of their dollars. And you wonder, how does that person get a space this large and be able to put this much in it, right? Well, because a lot of times that was fronted, that was pushed out in a way because they know that's going to keep flowing.
And that's the story over and over again. And my challenge to others that are thinking about this is to think about it in a way that they're focused on more of the positives. The one thing that I can say that we're doing more of is networking and working together.
That's right.
In terms of the business owners that have experienced those challenges. It has forced us to come together and to kind of pool together in terms of strategies to secure accounts, to make sure that we are carrying, the best products, that we continue to deliver, the best customer service. It's almost like a forced positive, but it's a positive nonetheless. We have grown in that regard, right? That's right. I feel like, I would just encourage people if you're interested in it, don't shy away from it. There are so many more resources. The other thing, people that from New York to Baltimore to so many other, Atlanta, so many cities have shown up and have open stores and, even open distribution. For You Hair, shout out to Miami, For You Hair, who has become a major distributor in the industry because of that. Because that has lower lines of credit and other things that they're doing because they recognize the challenge, and they're saying, hey, we hear you, we see you, and we're here for you, and so we're going to make sure that we do whatever is necessary, Patrick, wherever you are, to make sure that your stores are stocked.
And that's a good point, and I like the way you said it, because that speaks to the importance of people opening more stores, right?
That's right.
So these distributors can actually grow, and you can, I like that. And that's For You distribution,
Hair.
For You Hair, and they're out of Miami.
Out of
a
Miami.
Big distributor. I like that. Okay.
Yes.
All right. And so, for our viewers who would like to get started in their own business or beauty supply, do you have any tips or advices to give?
I think the first thing that I would encourage them to do is to go to the Black-owned beauty supply stores international Facebook page. And that is where I joined way back when. And there are so many different resources, files set up, individuals that are in the business that are willing to lend an ear to support. Join your local Black-owned chambers in your area. The Delaware State Black-owned Chamber or Black Chamber of Commerce is there for any questions related to Black-owned businesses that may need support. Get involved in the community. Stay connected to your community, and see everything as an opportunity. A lot of times people think as business owners that, the sale starts when you're in the store behind the register, but it really doesn't. It starts with you connecting with people, being in Walmart, in other stores, in other spaces, churches, and being able to speak to what you offer, your services or otherwise. And I think that that's important.
Yeah. So, Trisha, we would like to thank you for allowing us this wonderful opportunity to tour and converse with you in your establishment.
Thank you. Yeah, it was my pleasure.
So, KD Beauty Supply order and contact information will be listed in the description below. And remember, buy back the block to build back the block to better the community. And we loved and enjoyed talking with you today. Is there anything you want to end us with?
Well, just thank you. It was a pleasure, taking part. And I love the what you're doing in terms of highlighting other businesses, and I wish you continued success.
And we do with you as well as you. So thank you again, and we wish you nothing but success. And we look forward to having this podcast. I know you and I talked about this earlier, so we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about it. So this is what we're looking forward to. All right. Thank you again, and we'll see you soon.